Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, let's talk some boxing. Before I do, I'm going to just quote a piece of scripture that goes like this. Be kind to each other, tenderhearted, ready to forgive one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. Let's be more forgiving today. Let's get into the boxing. BoxingScene.com, shout out to them. They created 2 articles. One is by Boxing Clever. It says, Floyd Mayweather is to be inducted into Nevada's Sports Hall of Fame. That is pretty awesome. Again, confirming that Nevada recognizes the excellence of Floyd Mayweather. Of course, he is a resident in their state. The second bit of news has to do with Keith Thurman. So, Keith Thurman may face Lamont Peterson. Keith Thurman, as you know, is the WBA super champion. Lamont Peterson is the regular champion. But here's the interesting twist of the whole thing. Usually a super champion, he is somewhat immune from having to face mandatories. But in this case, the WBA president may mandate that Lamont Peterson face Keith Thurman. Now that's a really weird thing because that hasn't happened before. But according to the WBA, they're trying to consolidate all their multiple titles in each weight class. So they want to eliminate the problem of having 2 welterweight champions as soon as possible. So they've just changed their rules and they decided, oh no, we need 1 champion. We are not going to have no super champion anymore and no regular champion. Keith Thurman must be like, what? But there is a caveat to this. The president is waiting on Keith Thurman to see if he wants to do a rematch with Danny Garcia. Because they had their unification, the championship bout unification, and since Danny Garcia was a champion, they may want to have a rematch, and Keith Thurman may oblige them, or he may move on to face his mandatory. That's the WBA mandatory now. It's really strange, but it is what it is. Which will be Lamont Peterson. Now, first and foremost, why I find this very interesting is how sanctioning bodies just suddenly change their rules at the drop of a dime. And you, as someone who's in that sanctioning body, you just have to go along with the stuff that they just decide they want to do. You know, it's kind of tough, but it is what it is. So anyway, it can't adversely affect Keith Thurman because Lamont Peterson is again another champion. And if you paid attention, the WBA is actually cleaning up like they said. Triple G is facing Danny Jacobs. I don't know if Danny Jacobs is his mandatory, but that's what's happening. He's the regular WBA champion. GGG is the super champion. So it seems as though they're cleaning up that. I don't know if it's going on in every division, but this is something new that the WBA has just suddenly decided they're going to do. And so there you go. It does not affect Keith Thurman in an adverse way. To get another scalp on his resume would be wonderful. That is if he wins. Of course, he may not win because Lamont Peterson is an excellent boxer himself and likes to bring pressure in the later rounds. So I'm not too sure how that would pan out for Keith Thurman, but at this present moment, it really wouldn't hurt him to have a fight at the end of the year with Lamont Peterson. That would also be a good fight because Lamont Peterson has a pretty deep resume himself. So that would be a good fight for Keith Thurman. Of course, we keep our eye on the winner of Kell Brook and Errol Spence Jr. because that fight also would be able to help determine what is going on. And if Keith Thurman does his part to make sure his titles are unified and stay unified, and the winner of Kell Brook, Errol Spence, decides to make a fight with Keith Thurman, somebody's going to come out of that winning, being the old version of the undisputed champion. The old version of the old undisputed champion was the WBA, WBC, and IBF world champion. So that you could say they could claim that they're undisputed in a sort of way. That's why Floyd Mayweather's kind of made the claim that he was undisputed, just like with Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe had the WBC, WBA, and WBO. So that's why Floyd, because of that precedent in 2007, decided to say he was undisputed. But I think the more appropriate way of saying it would be if you had 3 of the 4 belts, which would be the WBC, WBA, and IBF. Now, if you get the 4th belt, which is WBO, you have all 4, you're unquestionably undisputed. But because of boxing politics, I don't know if Keith Thurman will get access to be able to fight for the WBO title. But we'll have to watch and see. So I just thought I would share these sentiments with you guys. The breaking news. Yes, some of you are angry that I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather Jr. again. Get used to it, because I will be talking about him a lot. Because a lot of you may be irked by it, and I'm going to hit you with facts and facts and facts, because you need to get those facts in your head. That's why I keep on doing it. I'm not trying to really provoke people, but I'm trying to let people know what the truth of the situation is. So, basically, this is what's happening with Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman is now in the driver's seat. He's going to be a desirable. A lot of people want to fight him. So he's in a good position at this point in time. Oh, by the way, the WBC and WBA were the first two unified titles to be called undisputed. So you were an undisputed world champion. It was really the WBC and WBA and no other belts. Now we have the offshoots, the IBF and the WBO offered the WBA. People recognize those as well as undisputed. But you know, usually if you get the WBC or the WBA, you're undisputed already. So Keith Thurman could think in part that he's the undisputed champion. Of course, he can go and catch the other two belts. Not like Gennady Golovkin. He shouldn't just let somebody abandon a belt and drop it on his lap. He should keep on fighting for them. On that note, you guys have a great one.